20th cap. As for Azerbaijan, they're ranked 85 in the world. They are technically good, but defensively suspect. 8 of the 11 play in the Azeri League. Number 24, Abbasiev, is making his full international debut. The Azerbaijan coach is also the US team's special advisor and scout for the World Cup. Bertie Vogts goes back 30 years or more with Jürgen Klinsmann. He was his manager when Germany won Euro '96. And Klinsmann sees him as a wise old owl. Today an opponent, tomorrow a sounding board. So the 100th international played by the US men's national team in the state of California. And a Californian resident in charge. It is, though, the first and the last to be played by the US at Candlestick Park. The breeze is getting up as it has at training for the two sides these past 2 evenings. It's blowing directly down the pitch from left to right as you look. Life after London starts here against a country better known for sponsoring Atletico Madrid's shirts than for anything they've yet achieved themselves on the football pitch. Azerbaijan wearing the blue, ranked higher by FIFA than they ever have been before. The build-up to this game dominated by the omission of Landon Donovan. Taylor Twellman, you were the man that broke the story. What are your feelings on that matter some 5 days on?
John, looking at every possible angle over the last 72 hours regarding the Donovan and Klinsmann relationship, one thing is for certain to me, it's complicated. From either Landon Donovan's sabbatical or the recent quotes about his training to the tweet from Jürgen Klinsmann's son, it wasn't easy between the two. But in saying that, nothing's changed for me. With or without Landon Donovan, they still have a huge question. How are they going to defend Ghana, Portugal, Germany 2.5 weeks from now in the World Cup?
Well, we may get some clues this evening. Azerbaijan on the attack with Rauf Aliyev, who's their main striker. Only 3 of these starting 11 play outside Azerbaijan. And they are in the lower leagues elsewhere in Europe, the German 4th division, the Turkish 2nd league. But Jürgen Klinsmann's hope is that Azerbaijan will provide worthy opposition for at least an hour. They'll be difficult to break down.
Well, and they played quality competition in World Cup qualifying as well, John. You think about it, they played Portugal twice, they played Russia. It's a decent first game in the send-off series for the United States.
And they were difficult to beat. 6 of their 10 qualifiers ended all square. Their only win was against Northern Ireland, but they celebrated wildly when they scored a 91st minute equaliser in their final qualification match against Russia. Here's Abishov. Michael Bradley getting involved for the US. To Josie Altidore, who goes over. The referee, by the way, is a Costa Rican. The players would be, well, to be wary of the moment when he reaches for his pocket. Henry Bejarano, 59 red cards in his last 97 games. He is football's equivalent of the hanging judge.
John, something to watch, and I've been in this situation a couple times in my career, is you're warming up not full-heartedly knowing you're on the bench. And Chris Wondolowski only had about 5 to 6 minutes to warm up here. He needs the first 10 to 12 minutes of this game to get his feet under him, break a sweat, and get into this game quickly.
Fabian Johnson fouled. You noted Chris Wondolowski warming up very vigorously, only quarter of an hour or so before kickoff. It was only at that point that it became clear that Clint Dempsey wasn't able to start this game.
Difficult set piece coming into the win for Graham Zusi. It's important to look at that near post area if you can drive it low and hard, looking for Bedoya or Michael Bradley.
Arm upraised, there's the signal from Zusi. It's delivered well, Wondolowski! What a start that would have been. It's a lovely delivery. And Wondolowski was pretty much all alone. He's got this wonderful recent scoring record that he so nearly extended. Away by Rameldanov. Azerbaijan shaken early by that.
Well, and one of the questions with the omission of Landon Donovan is who would take set pieces. Graham Zusi steps up. This is a great ball in with pace. I have absolutely no idea how wide open Chris Wondolowski is. My goodness. Great ball in from Graham Zusi.
What did we say? Azerbaijan defensively suspect, or in that case, absent without leave. Mr. Marcus Beasley. Matt Beasler to Jeff Cameron, just the second time those two have paired up at centre-back. Jermaine Jones, talented but occasionally wild. And now Michael Bradley, against whom there can be few question marks over his quality.
And I think this is where the test is tonight, John, for the United States, because I think the first 55, 60 minutes in the past for Azerbaijan, they've been tactically pretty good of just clogging up holes.
Altidore tried to spin on the ball, but it ran away from him. Through to Cameron Agaya, the Azeri goalkeeper, and Altidore could really do with a goal tonight. Those available in reserve on your screen now for the United States. Players still full of hope of making the start 11 for Ghana in 20 days from now. Countdown very much on. Shukurov, no-nonsense right-back, taking his time over this throw. Abasiev. Here's Beasler. It's a careless pass straight to Javadov. And Tim Howard called into action, and it was sloppy play by the US that offered the chance to Javadov.
Coming out of the back, these are the needless giveaways that the United States have to clean up going into the World Cup against the likes of Ghana, Portugal, and Germany. Matt Beasler carelessly giving the ball away in a dangerous position.
Well, it was that player, Javadov, number 7, that scored the very late equaliser against Russia. And how Azerbaijan celebrated that. Javadov with the corner. His delivery will have to improve. Well, what of the US post-Donovan? The American Outlaws have plans to mark what seems like the end internationally for the record-breaking number 10. Jeremy Schaap can tell us more.
That's right, John. Obviously a tumultuous week for US soccer. In some senses saying goodbye to arguably the greatest field player this country has ever produced, the American Outlaws. The supporters who show up for all the US games, they are planning to pay tribute to Donovan in the 10th minute for number 10. Around this stadium, you'll see a lot of USMNT number 10 jerseys, a lot of LA Galaxy number 10 jerseys. The Outlaws want to give Donovan a good sending off.
Thank you, Jeremy. That is looming large in the next 2 or 3 minutes. The US having had a wonderful early scoring chance set up by this man, Zusi. For Chris Wondolowski, the man that came in at 15 minutes notice or so. And Clint Dempsey felt something that made him regard starting the game as maybe something of a risk. Shukurov. Matt Beasler. Cameron to the right back, Fabian Johnson. First of 3 send-off games for the US. Next, it's Turkey at the Red Bull Arena on Sunday, and following that in Jacksonville, a game against Nigeria. That is clumsy by Ramaldanov on Wondolowski.
Chris Wondolowski only had about 3 minutes of warm-up, but the first 6-7 minutes of this game, he's been involved. Dangerous spot, drawing a set piece. Getting on the end of the first one from Graham Zusi. Good start from Chris Wondolowski.
So Zusi's delivery caused real problems for the Azeri defence last time from the other flank. It's beyond Altidore, headed out by Budak, the left back. Jones. Shukurov who got it away that time. We're counting down to the moment when the American Outlaws, behind that left-hand goal, salute the efforts of Landon Donovan. 156 caps, 57 goals, and even more assists for the US men's national team. Zusi, Altidore was on the back foot. I'm going to be mischievous with you, Taylor Twellman. If Clint Dempsey has an injury, if there's a doubt over him for the World Cup, and we don't know that at the moment, but it has to put a question mark over him, does Landon Donovan get the call? Could this 10th minute celebration of Landon Donovan prove to be redundant?
Well, John, that was the first question we asked Jurgen Klinsmann this morning, because Friday, the day after he cut Landon Donovan, he said he's the 24th player. But what did he say today? It has to be the right situation and the right forward. That's a different statement from Jurgen Klinsmann. Obviously, the American Outlaws, the United States, and Jurgen Klinsmann are hoping that Clint Dempsey's all right.
Maybe the American Outlaws watchers are out. Well, there isn't quite as much enthusiasm as we imagined for this tribute to Landon Donovan. It may still happen, but the expectation was that in minute number 10, they would applaud fairly lustily in support of Donovan.
I think the American Outlaws tribute, John, was the silence and giving it to the 10th minute, a classy gesture from the American Outlaws for a classy player. But that's the end of it in my eyes. There's 23 players going to the World Cup right now that the American Outlaws and the fans of US soccer should support.
Free kick for Azerbaijan. Position of a fair deal of promise, particularly with Ruslan Abishov over the ball. Number 15 there, plays for Rubin Kazan in Russia. Telling off one of the Azerbaijan players, Shavadov, I think, who went for a drink from a water bottle that was thrown to him. Healing angle for left foot of the ball, moving in the wind. Shukurov with the kick, and it hit the outside of the stanchion.
And that's the thing, Shukurov, he trained yesterday at these set pieces, knowing that with the wind, all he has to do is get that over the wall. Lucky for Tim Howard, the post was in the way, but that is a great free kick from Shukurov.
Well, the start of the send-off series for the US, and part of the send-off for Candlestick Park itself. It's one of the great cathedrals of American sport, heads towards a place in history, and it's somehow appropriate that it should happen on a windy old day. Just 2 events left at this grand old arena. May not be in the best state of repair these days, but so many ghosts and historical moments wrapped up. There's a Legends game next month, including the likes of Montana and Rice, and then Paul McCartney will bring down the curtain in the middle of August. Altidore hoping for a free kick, but he's got nothing.
These 3 games going into the World Cup are huge for Jozy Altidore, because, John, last year at this time, we were talking about an American player coming off 30-plus goals in Europe. Could he score at the international level? Well, he ends up 2013 with 8 goals. Now he's going into his 2nd World Cup, coming off a disappointing season in England. But that can all go awry if in the next 3 games you put a couple in the back of the net, you're good in your hold-up play, it's forgotten.
Here's Bradley. Zusi. Behind it goes for a corner. There's a little bit of flow creeping into the US game now. First ever meeting of the United States and Azerbaijan. Zusi, Bedoya, brushing off Garayev, Wondolowski! Chris Wondolowski's been the man for the US so far.
And Agayev has been the man for Azerbaijan, John. Absolutely huge with 2 saves. And I love the idea from Bedoya and Graham Zusi because you're going into the win. Catch Azerbaijan off of the short corner. Chris Wondolowski unlucky.
Zusi. Wondolowski up once again. Suggestion here is that Azerbaijan cannot defend the cross ball. Jones. Beaten in the air by Ramaldanov. Biesler. Abasiev. Dardashov. Good work by Bedoya, good anticipation. And Bedoya is brushed aside by Garayev. US free kick in a very similar position to Zusi's last set piece.
Yeah, and looking at the lineup, though, you're looking at why is Alejandro Bedoya playing wide left? Well, that's the exact reason why he's playing that. They play both sides of the ball very well, put in the work defensively, and then when he's in possession, get into transition as quickly as possible. Great work from Bedoya.
Again, problem with the ball moving in the place in which it's been spotted up because of the strength of the breeze here. Zusi, this time it's poor.
It's amazing how deep that line of defense is from Azerbaijan. I mean, they're 4 yards from their goal line.
Zusi. Right start by Graham Zusi to this game.
No doubt about it, John. Graham Zusi, Alejandro Bedoya, and Chris Wondolowski very active early on.
Beasley, Altidore, Bedoya to Bradley. Jermaine Jones with a deflection on the shot, which took some of the sting out of it. Playing their 22nd international in the last year. Previous 21, they won 16, but only one of their last 5. Double patch was last summer through the Gold Cup, 12 straight wins. There is a feeling from Jurgen Klinsmann, though, that given the relative lack of strength of some of the opponents in that competition, it maybe creates some false expectations, false hopes.
I don't think he's wrong, though, in that regard. That's also why Jurgen Klinsmann was hired. He wasn't hired to win the Gold Cup and beat Mexico. He was hired for Ghana, Germany, and Portugal. It's just unfortunate for Jurgen Klinsmann it's in the group stage.
Two of the German World Cup squad involved in a motor accident today. Julian Draxler and Benedikt Hervedez. More of that in a second. Is by Cameron and Biesler. They have happily escaped unharmed, but they were allowed to go motor racing today. And they had a crash. Hervedez and Draxler both walked away. Others were seriously injured. It seems extraordinary they should be allowed to do that in the build-up to a World Cup.
That doesn't make any sense.
Jones, Great ball to him, he had to stretch. Beasley does the tidying up, just. Howard clears into the teeth of what's not a gale, but it's a very stiff breeze. So Howard, if all goes well, should win his 100th cap in the final send-off game. ESPN's presentation of US soccer brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. Wondolowski. Budak got a piece of that. Are we judging this game, Taylor Twellman, on the score or the performance this evening?
No, it's more of the performance. Who cares, honestly, who wins the game? Now, in saying all of that, obviously, as a player, you want to win the game. But what's more important right now is how many chances you create going forward against a team that hasn't been dangerous whatsoever 21 minutes into this game.
Altidore wins a corner. Third corner of the game for the US. And as with the previous two, Graham Zusi's going across. Chris Wondolowski, 9 goals in his last 10 international appearances. Zusi short this time to Alejandro Bedoya. Josie Altidore coming off the back of an EPL season with Sunderland, which has not, frankly, been a roaring success. 1,756 minutes of league football and 1 goal. In fact, he lost his place at the end of the season to Connor Wickham, who scored the goals that kept Sunderland in the English Premier League. Beasley, Jones, Bradley, Cameron. It's a player who did have a good season in England. Graham Zusi. Just a little too awkward for Fabian Johnson. Well, great excitement building because the 2014 FIFA World Cup is a mere 16 days away now. Thursday, June the 12th, it begins on ESPN with the 2014 World Cup countdown show at 3 o'clock Eastern. Then it's hosts Brazil against Croatia coming up at 3:30 that day. And of course, you can also watch the entire tournament live on the Watch ESPN app.
What's your first game?
My first game is a repeat of the final of 4 years ago. A little matter of Spain against Holland.
Who'd you pay off to get that one?
Wouldn't you like to know?
You know, John, you go back and talk about Josie Altidore in his season at Sunderland. This is the kind of game here where Josie has struggled at times, because this is still a part of the game where you're that target striker. You have to have an impact on this game. The build-up, you're going against an opponent that's sitting in deep. Can you be that target for it in this instance right here, and then you can lay it off, get it to Michael Bradley, and then allow the team to push forward. These are critical moments for Josie Altidore going into the World Cup.
Joined us late. Better chances from the US's way. Chris Wondolowski with the 2 very best. And the guy of the Azeri goalkeeper has been a busy man and an agile man.
Well, and Chris Wondolowski late into the lineup because of the injury to Clint Dempsey. Right off the bat, 2 wonderful chances. Coming off his set pieces, a short corner on the second one, the first one, Graham Zusi with a great ball in. But Chris Wondolowski's been active, getting on the end of things, 24 minutes here.
Both coaches on sentry duty at the edge of their respective technical areas. Bertie Vogts, pretty adjacent to DeMarcus Beasley as he takes this throw. away by Bedoya. Javadov. Budak. Pulaski challenging. To Jones and then Altidore. Bedoya once again, but there was a hand used. And a knock to Abbasiev. The word we're getting on Clint Dempsey-Taylor is that it was just soreness in his groin, and him pulling out of the start of this game is purely proportional.
It's amazing in the world game, John, when you look at it, how many injuries are just huge injuries. I mean, looking at Luis Suarez, Diego Costa, some big-name players may not be playing in that World Cup due to injury.
Ralph Aliev. Not much of a chance to make an impact. Howard has done well to almost make halfway with his throw. Talking of those, Taylor, who are injured, we should perhaps give a shout out to Stuart Holden, who is here tonight watching, supporting those who he would dearly wish had been his teammates for the World Cup. Still undergoing rehab and hoping to give it another go with Bolton Wanderers next season. Biesler, just enough of it. Jermaine Jones. Too much on it. Well, Thursday night, it's the next episode of Inside, US Soccer's March to Brazil, the fascinating documentary series from ESPN Films. Takes you inside training camp of the men's national team and includes coverage of this week's fairly dramatic events. Inside, US Soccer's March to Brazil, presented by El Jimador, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock on ESPN, and also live on the Watch ESPN app. Michael Bradley. Misjudged by Shukurov, giving half a chance to Bedoya. Graham Zusi. Michael Bradley. Tackled successfully by Garayev. Awarded by the Costa Rican official. Breeze ruffling the hair of Jurgen Klinsmann. Other things have been ruffling him this past week. He's long enough in the tooth and experienced enough on the world stage not to let it bother him. Has a clear vision of who is in his 23 and why they're in his 23.
Well, in his career as well, he's been part of big decisions of getting rid of big people. He was captain of the '96 Euros when Bertie Vogts got rid of Lothar Matthäus.
Altidore, they appeal for hands against Ramaldanov, and the Costa Rican official is having none of it.
That's a good spot, though, from Jozy Altidore, because immediately when that ball is won in the midfield, he's an option to go forward. Jozy Altidore in a great spot here.
There's only the one arm, Taylor.
I mean, for me, that's a handball. But I feel like you're going to look at me and say, was it deliberate? I can read minds, by the way.
That's frightening. Dadashi. Javadov. Great interest back in Azerbaijan in this game, where the kickoff time was 7 a.m. There's a long history of this sport in Azerbaijan, most of it under the old Soviet system. Neftchi Baku, the top club, once finished third in the old Soviet top league. That was as good as it ever got. Now they have a league of 10. the best place to be employed as a coach. 9 of the 10 coaches lost their jobs during the past season. Top gate in the Azeri League, 10,000. The smallest, just 150 this past campaign. Still, they attract some pretty big names as managers. Tony Adams, Mustafa Denizli, John Toshak, Yuri Semin, the former coach of Russia. He's working there at the moment as well. The oil money pays for the big names to come in. How long they stay is another matter. Jermaine Jones. Abishov. Chance for Budak. It's covered by Jones. Collision. The referee calls an immediate halt. So Bedoya span to earth.
Ramadanov just came in flying into this challenge, and this is always in the back of your mind and back of Jurgen Klinsmann's mind, and every coach going into the World Cup. Getting out of these games in a rhythm, but avoiding injury is just a nasty, nasty challenge from Ramadanov.
The man who produces so many cards from Costa Rica produces none this time. I told you about his 59 reds in 97 games, Henry Bejarano. I forgot to tell you about his 492 yellows in that time. Bedoya is A-OK. Beasley plays it back to Howard. A half an hour in, Taylor Twellman, have you had a chance to make any judgments? We focused on the central defensive pairing, only the second time they're together. Cameron, Beasler, have they been tested enough?
No. But in fairness, Matt Beasler's had a couple nervy touches. Listen, going into the World Cup, the #1 concern has been the same for the last 18 months for Jurgen Klinsmann. It's who's his back four. This is the first World Cup since 1990 that the United States will not have a World Cup experienced center back. And now you've got 3 send-off games. You're coming into a game. This is the 11th straight game we're seeing a different back four.
Bedoya to Bradley. Alex Goodson was one of those cut. Here's Altidore. Still no chance for him.
And in talking of that back four, John, I think that's why the first name I was scratching my head at that was not going to the World Cup was Clarence Goodson.
Beasley. Bradley. Garayev got to him in the nick of time. There's been so much focus on Landon Donovan's omission, but would you say that Goodson is actually the unluckiest player not to be in the tournament?
Well, you look at it in 3 big games, the snow game against Costa Rica, the Gold Cup final, and then Mexico at home. Clarence Goodson started all those games.
Zusi. Beasler. Difficult for him to keep his header down. There's another central defensive option, one of the babies in the squad, John Brooks.
Yeah, and the last time we saw John Brooks, it's obvious he didn't play well against Ukraine, but over the last 5 to 6 weeks of his Bundesliga season, he was player of the week, scoring a game-winning goal. And listen, this is kind of what Jurgen Klinsmann has done. He's done it in the past. In the 2006 World Cup, John, he took 5 players under the age of 21. One of those players was Per Mertesacker, another player was Lukas Podolski. So this isn't unknown territory for Jurgen Klinsmann to make these types of decisions.
Bradley. He's got Wondolowski for company. He located Yunus Jade instead. Garayev. Budak. Abishov. Eventually the US pressure on the man in possession tells. The US playing into the wind in this first half. Bedoya. Into the wide open spaces, but not wide enough or open enough for Fabian Johnson. Well, I'm fascinated by the whys and wherefores of the reduction from 30 to 23, the fact and the fiction. So let's head to our Continental Tire Analyst Corner.
3 myths that I think need to be addressed about the 23-man roster. The roster is too young. That's not factually true. This is an older roster than 2010. I think the better question is, does it have enough experience? Beckerman, Jones, Cameron, Davis, all in their first World Cups. Second one, Klinsmann is thinking of 2018. Well, he's not.
Here's Zusi. Altidore was lurking, just wouldn't fall obligingly for him. Bradley to Biesler. Meanwhile, back in the analyst corner, you were saying.
Yeah, Klinsmann, there's a myth that he's thinking of 2018. In 2006, Klinsmann took 5 players under the age of 21 without a contract extension in Germany. And then the third one, the young guns won't play. Look up David Adancourt. He had 1 cap going into the World Cup, ended up playing 4 World Cup games and a game-winning assist in the group stage against Poland. I think those 3 myths are things that needed to be cleared up about the 23-man roster.
Yes, that was Klinsmann in charge of Germany in 2006. Shukarov skips off the turf and comfortable for Tim Howard. Bradley. Of the opposition is ramped up come Sunday at the Red Bull Arena in Turkey in town. After that it's Nigeria. There's also a behind closed doors friendly against Belgium in Brazil as Bedoya lets fly. And a goalkeeper who seemed pretty uncertain about the trajectory of that ball just managed to get his body in the way. Bedoya, Johnson, Jones, Biesler, Altidore. Zusi now. Wondolowski finding Altidore and Bradley and Wondolowski. The chances generally are coming Chris Wondolowski's way.
And those chances are coming immediately in transition when that ball is won, because Azerbaijan has got numbers behind the ball too often. They're opening up, and that was what we said coming into this game, that Azerbaijan is very naive defensively in transition, but immediately, and look at Chris Wondolowski, he's telling Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, immediately when that ball's won, let's get forward as quickly as possible.
Jones, Wondolowski, Abishov. By DeMarcus Beasley, who, if he appears in Brazil, becomes the first American to play in 4 World Cup finals tournaments. Jason Keller and Claudio Reyna both went to 4 World Cups, but didn't play in all of them. Servant, 115 caps now. possibly on his way back to play in MLS. Abbasiev. Bright young talent of Azeri football. His debut tonight, elevated from the under-21s. Altidore. Bradley, chance here for the US. Men over on the far side. Fabian Johnson, one of them, and Garayev turns it behind.
And talking about the impact that Jozy Altidore can have not scoring goals, it's here, right here. Big, strong, physical. Pick your head up, find Michael Bradley, and now get forward. The World Cup, that is going to be vital when numbers are going forward from Ghana, Portugal, and Germany. You have to have someone up front that can hold the possession.
Zusi. Biesler. Comfortable catch. I just wonder about Jozy Altidore, though. You're relying on him to bully the likes of Hummels, Mertesacker, possibly Pepe, maybe Jonathan Mensah. Is he capable at that level of making his physical presence
out, won't
tell?
we will, John. Yeah. I mean, it's a great question, but that's why I think Jurgen Klinsmann was so for Jozy Altidore to go to England instead of staying in Holland and scoring 50-plus goals over 2 years. I think for the little things, that's what Jozy needed in the growth of him as a player in his career, is going to England against high-quality competition, game in and game out. But let's be honest, he's up front to score goals as well.
France won the World Cup in '98 without a goal-scoring centre-forward. They had someone that wore number 9 called Guy Varche, but he rarely got close to scoring a goal.
And Spain won Euros, false number 9, and I think Germany's going to go into this World Cup with a false number 9 as well. You can do it, but for the United States, they need Jozy Altidore.
Jones. Much too strong for Altidore. Still no sign of Clint Dempsey, by the way. The early word was that with that soreness in his groin, he was receiving a little bit of treatment in the locker room. He's not graduated from locker room to bench as yet.
Well, but the temperature has dropped as well, so if it's a little muscle strain, I'm not sure he wants to come out here and sit on the bench and tighten up quickly.
Good point.
You didn't know I was an athletic trainer, did you?
I didn't, but there are many things over the past couple of days, Taylor Twellman, that I've learned about you that I would never, ever have thought. Shukarov. Jones, Radoya, by Garayev, Javadov, Ralph Aliev. The referee is going to give that. It's one of the more cohesive pieces of football that the visiting team have produced. And it brings Azerbaijan's second corner kick. Half-time approaching at Candlestick Park. The wind getting up even stronger. This is difficult for Shukarov. That's why he kept it on the floor. And the shot was by Javadov. Beasley, Shukarov. Well, Beasley can't believe it, nor can Jermaine Jones, who's got to be careful here because he's using some verbals against the assistant referee. And it is discipline that Klinsmann wants to see from his number 13.
Well, Jermaine Jones doing a good job coming in. reality is it doesn't matter what the call is. You said it exactly that. In a World Cup, you have to be disciplined. Let it go.
Shukurov, this time aerial. Yes, the difficulty, Taylor, is that with the strictness of referees at the World Cup finals, that could well have been a yellow card for dissent for Jermaine Jones. Zusi. Garay.
For the first time this first half, Graham Zusi made the wrong decision there. The United States had numbers going forward, but Jozy Altidore getting in a wide position, two-touch, get it out wide, and allow Michael Bradley, Chris Wondolowski, and Fabian Johnson to get forward.
Zusi. He's going to run away from Fabian Johnson. We're expecting one additional minute on top of the initial 45. What are your thoughts if I ask you to sum up this first period, Taylor Twellman?
They've had their good chances. Easily could be 1-2-0 with Chris Wondolowski, and it's difficult to assess a team like the United States against Azerbaijan because in the World Cup, they're not going to be playing against any opponents in the group stage that are going to sit in with 11 guys behind the ball. But the reality is you get some rhythm, you get into some flow, and hopefully score some goals.
Altidore. Free kick. US began this game on the front foot, and they're finishing the first half in similar mode. Beasler has gone forward to join Altidore. Wondolowski, the man that's twice come close to scoring in the first half.
Keep an eye on Jeff Cameron as a couple yards on his defender getting in that near post.
Zusi curls it in. Khrushchev heads it out. And it's retrieved by Beasler. And that is half-time in San Francisco. Chances have not been plentiful. The US have had the better of it. It's been a useful exercise so far in those terms. And if you have just joined us, it's worth reminding you that Clint Dempsey was named in the starting lineup, but didn't make the starting 11 at kickoff because of soreness in his groin. It's 0-0 at Candlestick Park as we hand you back to Alexi Lalas and Rob Lee.
Thank you, John. And the man who began this match on very short notice, Chris Wondolowski, for Clint Dempsey, has had the best opportunities for the United States. And there's Jozy Altidore. All right, you play these prep matches not necessarily for the results, but for the flow and for the theater review.
Yeah, there was a good flow. There was some of the usual type of set piece joy that the U.S. is very, very good at. It was kind of like a first date out there. Everyone kind of figuring out what the dynamic is and if there's a future individually and collectively as a team, a lot of new faces and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. The first date went okay, at least for the first half.
Flowers and candy from Alexi. Sporting KC fans, first game, of course, this evening was the 1-1 draw between Red Bulls and Sporting KC. They're watching all of this. Alexi's got the one sequence you're going to want to pay attention to in the first half. That's coming up next.